Hi, I'm Dede, and welcome to the first episode of my podcast, Dives with Dede. I'm really excited to kickstart my first episode with a guest who is really close to my heart. She's played a prominent role in my life as an artist. She's not only the founder of the Vibe Tribe dance crew, but she's also the visionary behind Vibe Dance Academy. She's a TEDx speaker, performer, dance choreographer, instructor, and a phenomenal artist. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Mrs. Sandarangi Perera.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for coming.
That was a long list.
I know, but thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. I feel like this
Thank you for having me, and I'm honestly honored to be your first guest.
Of course, I feel like it's such a full circle moment for me here. Reason being because I always feel like when I have a conversation with you, it feels like a warm hug. And I feel like I always come across some sort of revelation. And to give an anecdote to this, I'd like to take you back to December last year. I'm not sure if you remember, but we were on our way to, I think we were on our way to a party and we just booked a cab. And on our way, I was obviously contemplating about something that I came across on social media. And it was this post about how, in a relationship between a man and a woman, when the woman puts more effort into the relationship during the initial stages, or they're the chaser in the relationship, and they're the one pursuing the man, and comparatively putting in a lot more effort to make it work, or just in the initial stages, it never works out. Right. And I've asked a couple of my friends, like, hey, what do you think about this post? Like, do you feel like when a woman puts in more effort, in the beginning because they like the man or whatever, do you think about, no, Didi, it never works out. The woman's the one who's supposed to be pursued, not the other way around. And so I wanted to ask you. Mm-hmm. So I was like, Sandy, what do you think about this? And you said, well, I disagree. And I was like, what? What do you mean? Because like everyone else agrees, right? Mm-hmm. And you were like, I disagree. And you were like, Didi, do you think each person is different? And I said, yes. And you were like, do you think each person is unique and distinctive in their own ways? And I said, yes. Then immediately you said, so is every relationship. Just because, this works for one person doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work for you. And you were like, it's two different people coming together, so each relationship dynamic is completely different on its own. And I felt like that was such a simple conversation, but it goes to show that you have such an interesting perspective on things, and you allow people to look at things from a really different perspective. I want to know, right, you're not just obvious, it doesn't happen overnight, and I feel like you're someone who has a good sense of judgment, and I feel like a lot of us, including myself, we lack discernment, right? I want to know how you kind of navigated that space. How you when you come across anything, or when you come across a person, how do you know, like, nah, this is not for me, or like this I know this is it, and you make that judgment?
I mean, again, it depends on the circumstance that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say I always know, that's not right, but sometimes with certain things, like even if I can talk about dance, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a feeling where you just realize that this makes me happy. This feels right for me. But obviously to kind of make that decision, I feel like you have to have a sense of self-awareness where you know yourself and what you like and what makes you happy and what feels right for you. Not from everybody else's perspective, but from your own. So I feel like it's just a matter of really getting to know yourself. So spend time with yourself, like explore on your own the things that give you excitement in life and, bring you that kind of joy. And I feel like if you make decisions from that perspective, you just kind of end up, choosing what's right for you. But obviously there's no way of knowing 1,000%, right? So I think it's just a matter of accepting the fact that sometimes certain decisions feel right for me in this moment. It might not be the right decision in another 5 years.
Yeah.
In which time then you can change your mind. You make a different decision. We don't have to force ourselves to feel like all these things are permanent, or just allow yourself that freedom to understand the fact that you're not going to be the same person 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 5 months from now, tomorrow, depending on the things that you go through, the experiences you have in your life, the people that you meet, you're going to change, and that's okay. So
Yeah.
if that makes
Change
sense.
is the only constant.
Yeah.
And I feel like not everyone's open to change, obviously,
Yeah.
because they're so comfortable in their routine. It
Yeah.
works for them, they're comfortable with it, it goes well with their schedule, they make good buck out of it.
Yeah.
It works for them. When do you think people should take a step back and be like, okay, I know I'm comfortable with this, but I don't think this is going to work for me in the long run. Or I feel like there's more to me and what I can offer. Did you ever have like an experience like that in your life where you were comfortable doing what you were doing? You were making money and you were doing all of this, but you felt like, no, maybe there's something that I need to switch up somewhere here.
I mean, the key word there is comfortable, right?
Yeah.
After a while, that comfortability gets boring.
Yeah.
You want something more because you can do better. For me, I feel like after a while, that comfortability turns into stagnation, right?
Yeah.
Especially in terms of my career. I was a journalist before this, and when I started doing that at the time I did enjoy it, but
Yeah.
it turned out that job wasn't everything that I thought it would be, and it didn't align with who I was, and that's why I got into dance eventually, because I realized this is it, this is for me, this is my purpose. But even with that, there are moments when I feel like it's the same thing every day, it's the same routine every day. I need something more, I need something better. And that comes from that sense of feeling comfortable. And then after a while, it starts to feel like you're stagnating now. And you want more for yourself. You want to do better. You want more for your craft. You want more for your students, right? And as a teacher, for me, I can't give my students more if I'm not pushing myself to level up. So then I have to find ways in which I can do that, be it, traveling for training or doing some kind of course that's going to help me, be it, I don't know, picking up a new workout regimen where I can, push you guys in class and then, get you guys to level up in that way. So you eventually start feeling that for yourself, like, okay, I need something more. I can do more. I can do better than this. And then you set yourself new goals and you go after it. It's that basic idea of how we set goals for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
You set a goal for yourself, you accomplish it. Now what? Your life doesn't end there, right?
Yeah.
There's still more. So you end up setting new goals for yourself. So it's just, growing from one point to another. You get there and it's like, okay, now I want something more. And you just kind of, keep going through that, leveling up, pushing yourself.
No, I agree 100%. And I feel like you're one of the few people in the industry, you're not afraid to start from a beginner's level. Like
Absolutely.
You'd go take a class anywhere, right? You've
For sure.
battled with your own students.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of what you do takes a lot of humility, right? Not every, obviously not every dance teacher or instructor or coach or whatever, right? They do not want to ever get down to the beginner's level or battle their students because they're like, no, that's not it. I am here, right? They come to me to learn all of these things. I don't need to get down to their level. But with you've always we've battled against each
Yeah.
other. Me being your student,
Yeah.
we've had a blast.
Yeah.
I've noticed this a lot in the dance industry, especially with a lot of industry professionals and so on. What do you think is the root cause of this problem?
One thing would be ignorance. And another thing would be that whole idea of feeling too comfortable, of being a big fish in a very small pond.
Facts.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's, especially with a craft, like dance, it's constantly evolving, especially the styles that we dance, any kind of street style, there's always so much that keeps happening and the styles keep, if you look at hip hop, right? How much has it developed since it first started? Not just the style of movement, but also the music and how people have learned to express themselves to the music, right? So in an industry where things are constantly changing and growing so rapidly, you can't learn one thing and then be like, yep, I know this, now I'm good. I don't need to try any harder. I don't need to do any better.
Yeah.
There's always gonna be, some 5-6 year old out there who's already killing it out there. And like, kudos to you. I would never be able to do that. I'm already old. But it's not about being in competition with anyone else, but it's about seeing that and feeling like, oh, this is where the industry is at. I need to level up. I need to do more. Like, I need to push myself and see how much further I can go. It's not something you're doing to be in competition with anyone else, like I said. It's something that you should want for yourself. Why wouldn't you want to reach your highest potential in your craft, right? And to do that, sometimes it means you're going to have to learn a whole different set of skills. And if you're going to do that, you have to start from scratch, right? For me personally, I'm a commercial dancer. I know for a fact that I could be a much better commercial dancer if I really polished up on my technical skills.
Right.
So if I go join, say, a ballet class or any other style that's super technique heavy, obviously I'm going to have to start at a beginner level, right? And you have to be willing to put yourself in that position to make sure you're acquiring this new set of skills that will eventually help you in your chosen form of art, right? And even as a commercial dancer, when I travel for training, I take beginner classes plenty, because for one thing, especially with a style like commercial, every instructor is different, right? It's a very
different flavor with everyone.
It's very different flavor because it's a very fingerprint kind of style, right? Yours is going to be completely different to mine based on your training, what your influences are, the different styles that you've learned, what you like to draw from, the taste in music you have. It's going to be so different,
100%,
right? Yes. So say if I go to a teacher and, it's still my first week to whatever month training with them, I'm not going to get their style right away, Fantastic if you do, but you always might not. So it's always good to, kind of test out a beginner class and see, how does this person teach? What does their style feel like on my body? And, you could take both classes at the same time, beginner and advanced, and see how each class pushes you in a different way, And for me personally, I really like training in beginner classes as well, especially once you become an advanced level or, professional dancer, and then you go into a beginner level class, you're taking that class with a whole other mindset and a different kind of understanding of your body, right? Meaning when you're now learning this beginner movement, you're bringing a whole lot of other new knowledge into it that helps you dive deeper in to the beginner movement, where you're understanding the techniques so much better. You understand the movement so much better. And you're really able to take your time in a beginner class to perfect these things and embody it more.
The basics, the foundation.
You're never too good to keep drilling your foundations. Never. Always keep going back to it, because you can't build a house without a foundation. Simple principle. Yes. Yep. And just because you now have that foundation, like I said, it keeps evolving all the time. Yes, there's always new things in there that you can find. So I feel like for me personally, that's why I enjoy putting myself in those kind of environments, because I know for a fact it gives me the time to grasp so much more that I can then apply in an advanced level class where people teach like this. They're not going to wait for you, right? But you are able to keep up in the advanced class because you first got that understanding from a beginner level class.
And your foundation's very strong.
Your foundation's much stronger for it. So it's helpful. Was that your question? Go ahead.
While we're on this topic, about, having a good sense of judgment, knowing when to change, knowing what to bring to the table, what skills you need to garner, and also not forgetting your roots, going back to it, all of this. While we're on this topic, I want to ask you this question. I've been in this dilemma for a bit, and I want to know your take on it. More often than not, I've seen people, artists, influencers, fitness enthusiasts, you name it, content creators, whatever. They make good content, they make good art, but they're shitty people, right? The moment you interact with them outside of that space that they're in, it could be, outside of the dance studio, the performing stage, the gym, or, the music studio, wherever, the moment they step outside and they're done making that content or that art and you interact with them one-on-one, you're like, the vibe isn't it. Like, this is not it. The person's energy, you immediately understand it's a facade, and that their morals or principles in life is very distorted, right? I've come across many, too
Too many.
too many, where you really end up questioning, how did you get here? Who let this child in? Like, you know what I mean? And it's honestly, it's not like it is. I'm so confused because when you're interacting with them, you're like, the foundations that you're operating on is so messed up.
Yeah.
But hey, you make good content. You're skilled, right? They are skilled. Most of them, they're skilled, and they're able to put out good art. But I'm like, I've always wondered, does that eventually show up though? Like their energy, does that eventually seep into their art and people are able to pick up on it? To summarize the whole thing, I think my question is, can bad people make good art? Or will that be picked up in the long run eventually? Like, what's your take on it?
I mean, bad people can certainly make good art, for sure, because, this is something I struggle with personally myself as well. So I don't know if I have a solid answer for that question, because I totally feel you. And we're personal friends as well. So how it can be a struggle for me as well. I do believe that bad people can make good art. But for me, it comes down to, can I support you in the art that you're making if I know you're a bad person, right? And even in that, what people categorize as bad is, it can be very gray, right? What I feel like, what you're doing goes against my ideals, my principles, my beliefs, doesn't necessarily mean that it will go against somebody else's, right? It all depends on how we perceive the world.
But I also feel like there are, for instance, things like loyalty, things like, there are certain qualities like treating someone with compassion and being generous and just, I feel like there are certain qualities, I feel like a majority of them can agree on, where we're like, yes, like you need that.
Yes.
That makes you a basic human being.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But I understand that it is a gray area.
For me personally, it's always, yes, we are artists, but we are people first.
Yes.
So for me, it matters that you're a good person first. Yes. That is me. For me, that's my personal belief, right? So I have had instances where maybe someone is doing good work, but I cannot find it in me to support your craft when I know this is the kind of person you are, and behind closed doors or sometimes out in the open, you treat other people really badly. And I witnessed this in person, right? So for me, that sense of humanity matters a lot more than what you're able to create.
Yeah.
But this is, I feel like, in more of a, if I know you personally kind of sense. Right?
Yeah.
We all know there are artists out there that we listen to their music because it's good, it's a vibe, you want to dance to it, but then you hear all these nightmare stories about them either being abusers or, just traffickers or just horrible things, in which instance, there have been instances where I just fully stopped supporting them. And it's like, I am not listening to your music anymore. I will never play it in a class. You kind of do your part to make sure that you don't.
I've faced this issue where I was at a party and I played some Chris Brown music because I love his songs. I love his music.
Yeah.
And I was like vibing to it. And this girl comes up to me and she's like, "You're supporting an abuser." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, of course. Like, I understand where you're coming from, like his whole scandal with, the other celebrities and stuff. But then it puts you on the spot and you're trying to separate the art from the artist. Because obviously it's not like I have Chris Brown on speed dial. I'm just like, hey, is this true? Did you really,
Yeah.
And but I'm not for it. I'm completely against what, he's done. But at the same time, a part of me enjoys the music.
Yes.
I love dancing to it.
Building on that, right? And like I said, this is something I've been debating with myself as well.
Yeah.
Because the more you think of it, there's so much that keeps coming out about all these artists that you like, to a point where it's like, okay, now what do I listen to? Like, there's no music that I can listen to or vibe with or dance with, because turns out a lot of y'all are doing really crappy things out there. So, it can become very confusing. So that's why I said I don't have a very solid answer. It is a gray area. But I know for a fact that if you're someone I work with personally, and I know that you mistreat other people or you are disrespectful towards other people or me or, my dancers, anything like that, I am never working with you again. I will not support you, because, we all deserve that sense of respect and,
Yeah.
when you're working together, you show that to them, and it needs to be reciprocated.
You don't obviously need to speak to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. You need to know who you vibe with,
Exactly.
who you connect with on a
Yeah.
soul level, and kind of build on that. Because I feel
Yeah.
like if not, and you try to be neutral,
Yes.
this whole neutral game where you're trying to be neutral with everything, not pick a
No.
side,
Yeah.
it never works out.
Yeah. That's a very selfish kind of stance.
so
You're doing that
selfish.
purely because it benefits you.
Yeah,
When you take that neutral stance.
Yeah.
I'm not saying in every instance, obviously it depends on what the situation is, but a lot of the time when I've seen that, it's usually because it benefits you in some way to kind of
And I
have
also
your
feel like
fingers in both pies.
validation to a lot of them. It's like, oh, everyone loves me. I'm so good to everyone. All of it. It's like it's a people-pleasing syndrome, one,
Yeah.
and you're trying to get validation by just being nice to everyone.
Yeah.
What I've noticed with people who don't mingle with everyone, something I like about them is they know who they vibe with,
Yes.
and there are certain things they don't agree with those people, and they're
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to disturb you. You go on your way, and I'm going to do my own thing.
Exactly,
And I
yeah.
feel like you should have that sort of stance in everything.
Of course,
And
yeah.
pick a side all the time. Because a friend to everyone is a friend to none.
None. Exactly. So true.
So, there goes that. And, to speak on this topic again, I know you said it's a gray area and obviously, each to their own. But I also feel like if you are someone who you are inherently bad and you just know it and you treat people like shit and, you still make good art, I feel like eventually people are going to pick up on that, because when you create art or you create content, I don't know about a lot of the content creators out there, but obviously for me with my art, I cannot create from I feel like when I'm creating, I need my heart space to be pure.
Yeah.
I want my heart space to be really pure, and I feel like when it's really clouded with judgment or hate or whatever, I'm not able to create fully. Like, do you hear what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like I'm not pouring all of myself into it.
Yes.
Because I'm not being true to myself
Yeah.
and to the people around me. And not only can you go to sleep at night knowing that you do people wrong or
Yeah.
but I feel like it eventually affects your art as well.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, you might be making good content right now, but in the long run, I feel like you're going to be so unhappy with yourself and what you've done along this journey that it's going to show up in your art.
Yeah. In my experience, what I've realized is with a lot of people who do that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
it's, once the fame or the money, all of that starts pouring in, this is obviously not everyone, but I've seen it in many circumstances where they actually stop caring about the art itself and the quality of the art that they're producing, because it becomes so much more about those external things, right?
The numbers, the
So-
stats, the views.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they'll still continue to step on whoever they need to step on to get to the top, or use whoever they need to use to get to the top. And I feel like maybe for those people, in their heads, maybe they're not doing something wrong. I feel like they don't realize
It's
that.
right for them. Yeah.
Yes. So possibly they're thinking, no, it's a very cutthroat industry. I'm just doing what I need to do to survive, to, make sure I'm reaching my goals. And even though maybe we're seeing it as wrong because it's not something we would do, maybe they're not seeing it that way. But for me personally, I feel like once you start the money and the fame and the views and the likes to affect your work, like to influence your work, it turns into something else. It stops being authentic. It stops being pure. It comes from a very different place that's purely focused on all the wrong things. But then again, that's my perspective of what I think are the wrong things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
And do you feel like, in this industry, I feel like the whole, you spoke about when it becomes about the numbers, the views, the engagement and all of it, I feel like it affects all of us, obviously, especially you,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Dancing isn't my career. It's something I do, obviously, on the side. But for you, this is your career. Even though you don't care about the numbers, even though you don't care about how much engagement it gets, it affects
Absolutely.
you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
How have you navigated that space and just been like, because I know it's been a struggle.
Oh,
like,
it's been very tough. Like, I'm not gonna lie. So it's constantly,
because I know
up and down
you're
and-
not someone who is going to pick the most trendiest song and dance to it just to get a bunch of views.
No, of course.
You've always picked your music based on what you like,
Yeah.
and like if you're vibing with it. And for someone like that, the journey is very tough. I'm not going
Yeah.
to lie.
Yeah.
Because, we are not out here being like, oh, okay, this is trending on TikTok.
Let me hop on it
Let me
real
hop
quick.
on it
Yeah.
real quick. Nothing wrong with people who are doing that. Of course, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we know as dancers, if I really don't want to dance to that song and you do a choreography,
I'm not gonna do it.
you're not going to do it
No.
just because it's trending and it's,
Yeah.
woohoo.
Yeah.
How has that worked out for you? Because it's pretty tough to.
It is tough. For me, there was one point when, this is back when Instagram first started and, you were still having those funny looking filters. And
Yeah.
it was nothing like it's now. You're not
The
shooting
dog
professional
filters.
videos all the time,
Yeah.
to post on social media. But when I kind of start to get a bit more engagement, and I don't have like a massive following, but, when the followers started to pick up a little bit, I started noticing, I'm getting more followers if I post on this day, at this time, you have to post every day. And I kind of got carried away with it. And then at some point, I realized that I was posting purely because I wanted to grow my following, right? It wasn't because I actually wanted to practice. I was practicing so that I can get a video of it and post it on social media so that I will get followers out of it.
Yeah.
This was me at one point, right?
Yeah.
Just being super honest out here. And it hit me at one point that, is this really what you want, like the relationship you want to have with dance, where you're constantly doing it for somebody else, for the attention of somebody else? Is this really the path you want to go down?
Feels like a chore.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I know for a fact that's not why I started to dance. I purely dance because it makes me happy. Whenever somebody asks me, why do you dance? It's always been my answer, because it makes me happy. I don't think I need to have like a much bigger, deeper answer than that. That's it, right? And in that moment, I told myself that I need to like hold myself accountable with this. I need to be aware of this, and I need to stop this, because I personally didn't like that path I was going down. So from that moment onwards, whenever I posted because I wanted to, because it was something that I wanted to share. I do not care about the algorithm. If it picks up, it picks up. If it doesn't, it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
I posted this because I had something to say with my body, because I like this song, because I was vibing with somebody else, because I enjoyed this moment, right? And it's purely dependent on the fact that I wanted to do this.
Have
It
you
doesn't-
ever?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry to cut you off there. Have you ever come across, this feeling where I know I have, where you just don't want to dance, right? Where it's like it could be something that you really love, and I kind of beat myself up for it as well, because I'm like, okay, I am a dancer, I'm an artist, I love doing this.
Yeah.
And there are some days where I just don't want to move at all. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to post. I don't want to do that. And then I'm like, does that make me a bad artist or a bad person?
not.
Because I'm not being, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or what I'm good at, or,
No.
And it's like, no, I don't want to dance right now. Have you come across that feeling where it's just like, no, I just don't want to?
Of course. I mean, when you do it professionally, it can be difficult sometimes, because I think we've had this conversation
Yes.
before as well, where I've told you, say if I have class in the evening,
Yeah.
I have to have choreo ready,
Yeah.
whether I want to get it done or not.
It's different for you.
Yes, because
Yes.
people are paying to come to that class, and I have to offer them something of value. So I have to be prepared. I can't go there and wing it, because I owe more than that to my students,
Yeah.
right? So when when you do it professionally, there are days when it's your job, you have to do it,
Yeah.
right? But then when you come at it from the artist perspective, where I'm creating just for myself, and it's not because I need to teach it in class, or you're purely doing it because you
Yeah.
enjoy it and it's fun, you love doing it.
Yes.
But in that sense, yes, even when I do have to create for class, there are some days when you just wake up and you're like, I'm not vibing with any music right now. I have no creative ideas. I have nothing going on in there. And all my body wants to do is just sit for 24 hours straight and just absolutely do nothing. You absolutely have those days. But like I said, when you're a professional, sometimes you have to have that discipline where you
Yeah.
get yourself off the couch and you get the work done. But if I don't have to get that kind of work done, I allow myself to rest. Some days I'll just be like, nah, I've danced the whole week. I deserve 2-3 days off, or sometimes I just don't want to, even if I haven't. been working as hard as I maybe should be. Because this is something, we always talk about as well, where you listen to your body, right? And your mind is a part of your body. Yes. Some days, if it doesn't want to do anything, when you say don't do anything, it's still, you mean you physically don't want to move, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that your brain is still not going a mile a minute, coming up with all these creative concepts. You're reading a book where you're inspired by it. You watch a movie and you're like, oh, that was so cool the way they've done the filming, or like the sets or the costumes or
colors. And
like that's still your mind very much at work as an artist. Right?
Yeah.
Being a dancer doesn't mean we're up and moving 24/7. There's so many more layers to it. So there's absolutely no reason for you to beat yourself up on the days when your body physically doesn't feel like, I need to get up and dance today. Like when you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. You find other ways of being creative.
That's true.
Maybe you write something down, you write some of your thoughts down, and the next day you're inspired by what you wrote and you create movement to those words.
Yeah, I feel like we draw inspiration from absolutely anything.
Yeah.
Comes at the most weirdest moments too.
Yeah.
It's like some book you've read like 10 years ago, you're like, hey.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I feel like, so in this journey, right, for you, when you initially started off dancing and you were like, this is my thing, I want to be a dancer. That moment where you made that pivotal choice to be like, this is going to be my career.
Yeah.
I know people said a lot of things to you. Yeah. And I remember this one specific, incident. And I'd like for you to talk about it as well, where someone was like, this is never going to work out for you.
Yep.
And like, how old were you? And when was this? Like,
I think right out of college. So I would have been 21, 22,
oof.
Which feels like donkey years ago now. I'm old.
You're not. You're like, you just turned like 19.
Wish. My body wishes. My 90-year-old. Yes, these are 90. My body wishes. But yeah, that was at one of my very first jobs. Like I said, I was a writer before I chose to pursue dance full time. And that I just... No shade to anyone who does a 9-to-5 job, who enjoys being in a corporate environment, because a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Just for me, I physically cannot. Like, I just cannot be stuck behind a desk the whole day. Again, no disrespect to anybody. It's an honest way of working. It's you're making honest money. More
works
power
for
to
some,
you.
Doesn't work for others.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm someone who needs to be up and about. I thrive in chaos, is what I always say. I need a chaotic environment.
Sounds a bit alarming.
Right? It is what it is, right? So this office was so depressing to me. Just like going to work every morning, it was literally like being dragged to my death. I kid you not. And I remember this, my boss at the time, he asked me what my future goals were, right? And I said I wanted to be a professional dancer. He just straight out laughed at me and he said, oh, do you know the percentage of people who actually make it as artists? And I can't remember what the percentage was, but it was something along the lines of 98% of people fail, only like 2% make. So he asked me, so what makes you think that you're the 2%?
Just that.
I obviously didn't know how to respond to that. I said, I'm just very passionate about it. But I just like bawled my eyes the whole way home that day after work. And it made me really miserable. It didn't make me feel defeated. It just made me really mad that, this person had the audacity to say something like that. And it just...
I feel like a lack of respect.
It was a lack of respect.
For this industry.
Because people think that being an artist is not a real job.
Being a dancer.
Just an artist, especially for dancers. Especially for dancers. People think that it's not a real job. Because even when I told him that, he was like, oh, what's your plan B? Well, I don't have a plan B. I have a plan A. That's what I'm going to do. Watch me. But yeah, so my dad picked me up after work that day and I just immediately started crying in the vehicle. And my parents have always been super supportive. So on the way, my dad was like, if it makes you this miserable, like, you don't have to do this. You can get another job, you can do something else, which I felt like was exactly what I needed to hear in that moment as well. And I know this comes from a position of, being more privileged. And the very next day, I decided this place is not right for me. Like this, I don't want to work for someone who has zero respect for what I'm telling that I want to do with my life. He could have at least said, oh, okay, that's good. Then
But good luck.
yeah, exactly. You could have stopped there. You didn't have to belittle me and tell me
Yeah.
it was impractical. That was unnecessary. Walked in the next day, gave my resignation. They tried to talk me out, but I'm like, nah, bye, peace out.
I leave in 2 hours.
But I do understand that, that decision was made from a position of privilege where, I was still living with my parents.
Yeah.
I didn't have those kind of bills to pay, or, I didn't need to put food on the table, take care of people. So I understand that it was, I'm not going to say it was an easy decision to make, because at the time I was very unsure of what direction I wanted to head in. Because when I was leaving school, I was dead set on being a journalist. I was so sure that that's what I wanted to do, like so sure, until I started doing that job and realized, do I really want to do this for the rest of my life? So it was a very directionless time of my life, you know. And
I mean, you're only 21, so.
Exactly.
So it's
I feel
only
like we
natural.
put so much pressure on
Yeah.
people just leaving school. When you're picking your degree, you're kind of expected to know what you want to do with the rest of your life. What
And have all of the
19-year-old,
answers, yeah.
what 19-year-old person do you know that knows what they want to do for the rest of their life? I mean, some people occasionally they'll be so sure. Yes, I want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer, lawyer, whatever.
Good for you.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Great professions. But we don't even have dance education in Sri Lanka.
We don't.
So it never even occurred to me that being a professional dancer was an option. Like I never realized until I was about 24, 25, and my dance teacher kind of, put it in my head, this is an option for you. Until that, it never clicked with me that this is something I could make a career out of.
I'm so glad she did, because I mean,
Me too,
given the
Dede.
given the time frame that we're talking about as well, dance was not big back then in
Yeah.
Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, of course we had classes and we had all of these things
Yeah.
happening, but compared to other countries and everything,
No.
we're still growing here
Yeah.
in Sri Lanka. And I feel like
It was at a very infant stage.
infant stage,
so-
and I feel like also one of the reasons why the industry is, I wouldn't say struggling, but it's been a challenging thing for us to grow also as a society and as the dance industry as a whole, because people don't put enough respect. They think that, oh hey, I'm doing a music video, you know what would get me more views? A couple of dancers in skimpy outfits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me just put the decoration.
Yeah.
No, we are not the decoration.
Yeah.
We're pretty much part
Of the production.
right? We're not just the deco on the cake,
We're not
the
the props.
fondant. No, we're not
We're
the
not the
props,
props.
nothing. Right? We bring life to your
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
And we are very much part of the creative process, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like they don't want to accept it, most of them at least.
Absolutely
It's
not,
like,
yeah.
oh no, your job is to just bust a few moves. Do not tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I will do the directing. I will do the designing, whatever.
Yeah.
This is the line. Don't mingle.
Yes.
Or don't try to play. And I feel like it's so stupid, right? Because in order to be a dancer, in order to be an artist, it takes creativity, right?
Yes, yeah.
And that's something we have inculcated, and that's why we are here doing our jobs. So you
Yeah.
need to put some respect.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've come across this problem where, I'd go on set and I'm trying to pitch this idea. I'm like, oh, hey, I feel like the movement would be better here. Or I
Yeah.
feel like the model should do something like, why not try that? No. This is the script.
Yeah.
Let me do. I'm the director here.
Yeah.
No, you stay in your lane.
Lane, yes.
Right? And it's like so disrespectful, and you feel small and insignificant
Yes.
that you're only there just to teach, or just move your hand like this and do that. You
Then
know what I
done.
mean?
Your job is done. Go
Your
home.
job
Thank
is done.
you.
No, I'm much more than that.
Yeah.
I can bring much more to the table.
Yeah.
And that is happening abroad in other industries. Just
Yeah.
over here, it's such a, how do I say, it's like you are flicking the ego.
Yeah.
The ego is so fragile. They're like, oh no, who is she? Who is
Yeah.
he? He's just a dancer.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell me how to do this. Have
Yeah.
you experienced this?
Oh gosh, plenty. So much
Yeah.
so that I don't even take on industry work anymore because it's too frustrating.
Yeah.
It's way too frustrating. I feel like this also stems from just the lack of dance education. So people
Yeah.
don't respect dancers, as actual artists, and they don't understand the fact that this is an actual career, and to become professionals, we go through so much training, and I don't just mean physically, but there's so much that we do
We use our
to
whole
grow
body.
creative. Exactly, you know, especially in this age of YouTube and social media and all of that, I feel like us dancers, it's no longer enough to just be a dancer.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
As in just the movement part, the moving of the body, it's no longer enough. You have to learn about lighting, costuming, videography, the angles, the editing, all of that. You have to learn so many different things to be able to keep up in today's industry, right? So in creating these, you know, videos that we do on our own, like productions or whatever, you amass so much knowledge, and truthfully, this might be controversial. People might come at us for saying it, but nobody can film dance like another dancer.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there's just this sense of understanding.
We've spoken about this.
Yes, that they just have a better sense of understanding of how one moment you're here and the other you're there. How do I move the camera smooth enough?
Transitions.
To capture this, you know, smooth enough so that we're not losing, you know, important details of the movement. So which is why now whenever, you know, we book some kind of gig, I always send a rough draft of a video where I'm not just creating the movement for the sake of creating it. No, I'm also thinking of the environment we will be dancing in. Is it outdoors? Is it indoors? Is it, you know, what kind of set is it?
Yes.
So whatever movement we're doing, this particular formation has to be filmed from this angle because that's when it really captures all of it.
Yeah.
You know, that's when it fully comes out. So how do you move from this point to that? How is this costume going to look here? You know, how is overall what I'm doing going to complement the artist and the overall production that they're trying to do? So you're thinking of all these different things when you create, right? So I send a rough draft, and there have been so many instances when you send that draft, and some people actually find it, they're super happy with it, they film the entire production that way, right? Exactly that way, but they do not give you the creative director credits.
Oh yeah, they never do.
They never do that.
They never do.
Right? You are still just listed as the choreographer. Would it kill you to give, you know, these artists their due credit? Because you know for a fact, those, you know, that's what I suggested when I created the choreography. I sent you that rough draft. So, you know, they still don't want to accept that. They kind of pass it off as, you know, their creativity, their work.
It's choreography. No. Choreography is different to directing.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different. But God forbid you bring these things up, you become a difficult person to work with. You are a diva. They will no longer hire you.
Yeah, and it's not like us being cocky or being like, oh, hey, you know what, I'm a know-it-all. I know. It's genuinely like, no, Jason, I told you from point A to point B, this is how it should go.
Yes.
It's my input.
Yes.
So I think it's they're in denial of the fact that most dancers are also very good creative directors and storytellers. Right? And there's so many people are in denial of that because they think that I also feel like these 15-second routines have a part to play in this.
Definitely.
Because dance has now become a lot more like, let me just station my phone and just bust a few moves for a couple of seconds. Hey, you get like 2,000 likes and so many, you know, comments. And it's just, you know, and I know few other dancers who actually go beyond that.
Of course, yeah.
And I feel like most opportunities now are given. I know we're diving into a different topic here.
No, I mean, that's our conversation.
You know, where, you know, I've noticed this where people with these short clips, snippets with these trends and stuff, they get a lot more opportunities because obviously of the engagement on their profile and everything. Well, good for you. But then there are dancers with a lot more training, with a lot more passion and love for this craft, where they put some respect when every time they, you know, perform. Yeah. And I feel like most of these gigs aren't going to these dancers because of the clothes that they're wearing, because, you know, the phone that they're filming from is not an iPhone brand new model, right? But they're so talented and so skilled. But no opportunity is given. I know, you know, one time, this was on my birthday, to give an anecdote to this. It was my birthday and I posted a video dancing to one of Jenny Aiko's songs. And, you know, I was just feeling myself. So I just wore like a white tee and shorts, and I just
Yeah.
danced, and I posted this video, and it was shot in my room from my phone, and it was at night, so it wasn't as clear because it was at night. And I posted this, and obviously people liked it, commented, whatever. And I got a call from a well-known fashion photographer in the
Okay.
industry who covers, a lot of events here. He and I wanted to work on this particular project. So he calls me up and he's like, "Hi, Dede, happy birthday." And I'm like, "Thank you." And he goes, "Well, your new video, the reason why it's not getting many views or engagement because of what you're wearing. You need to, have you seen these other girls, what they're wearing? You need to wear that, you know what to wear, no, man. You're not a fool, no. Dannane me avadane ganne hati. හරි මේ පොඩ්ඩක් කලර් එකක් තියෙන පොප් වෙන මොකක් හරි එකක් අඳින්න මේ එතකොට audience එක engage වෙයි. And I was like, huh? He's like, yeah, what you're wearing isn't it.
Yeah.
And you need to shoot also from a proper phone and change what you're wearing and all of that. And I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, and you're not a fool, no, man. You know what to do, no, to get to the numbers. And I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Because I was in shock, right? I wasn't in the mood to scold him. I was like, what? It's my birthday, dude. Like, give me a break one day. And then he's like, no, you know what I mean. No, man.
Do I really? Explain it to me.
I don't.
Let's hear it.
Sarath, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, use your looks. Penuma තියනවානේ පොඩ්ඩක් පාවිච්චි කරලා මේ videographer කෙනෙක් එක්ක පොඩ්ඩක් set වෙන්න. ඉතින් නොපුලුවන් නේ මේ dance snippets dance videos ටික free කරගන්න පුළුවන් නේ. මේ ඔගේ වන්නත් ඕනේ නැහැ. මේ ඔයාට free කරයි තියෙන්නේ. I was like, what? You're literally telling me to pimp myself out.
And also
it's coming from a videographer. He is into videography, photography, everything. A well-known industry professional here. I was so shocked and disrespected. I was like, are you seriously telling me this? You're telling me to pimp myself out just so I look, just so my videos look as pretty as the ones on TikTok from the other people, from other dancers and artists, just for views and everything. And you're telling me to do this and that. And I was so confused that this is a type of feedback we are getting as dancers. You know what I mean? And I was like, listen, so and so. I posted that video because it was my birthday. I wanted to boogie. I just wanted to dance, and I filmed this from my phone. Yes, it's not like, a professional camera, but I was just having a good time, and I wanted to post it, and you just ruined it for me, right? And I was so shocked that was the type of feedback, and that's the way they look at it, right? Look at dance. Dance is more than just me wearing a fancy outfit.
It's more than the
having
aesthetics.
a fancy hairdo.
It is so much more than
it's
the
a lot
aesthetics.
more than that. And mind you, dancers or artists or myself, we don't need to sleep around or pimp ourselves out just to get videos done or high quality photography done. We're very much capable of paying the bills, right? We're not only good at just dancing, we're so much capable of doing a corporate job. For instance, I do a job. I actually have a corporate job that I've been doing for like 5 years now. And I'm like, I don't need to do all of that, honey. I can pay. Right? Dancers are now brokies on the road just busting a few moves for entertainment. We're not a circus, And I feel like it's so disheartening that we have to face those sort of comments. You know what I mean? And I don't know about you, but have you dealt with those sort of weird feedback in that kind of...
I mean, truthfully, on occasion, I've maybe had a few people comment, because I do a lot of very feminine routines, and I don't care, this is my body, I do with it what I want, I'm that kind of person. So occasionally I have gotten a few people maybe making a few rude remarks, talking about, that's so unladylike, what you're doing. So, I'm unladylike, big deal. Oh no, let me change my entire personality to, make you feel better. But for the most part, actually, I have to say I've been blessed enough to not have people like that coming at me. Also, maybe because I think people are scared of me, so it's like, what?
But you
have something to say? No, but like,
trust me.
just like on occasion where somebody will message from
I think you showed one of these screenshots in the
they'll
group.
just say something. And I never get offended by things like that because I find it really funny, right? And I do not have the time to get into a lengthy argument and try to debate with an idiot about how they don't have the right to tell me what I can do with my body. I don't have the time for this. I'm tired. If I have time, I'm taking a nap, okay? So...
I'm
but
sorry,
it's
I'm
been
laughing
very
because
few.
I'm
No,
thinking about that screenshot you shared. I don't know if it's okay to share this. It was about this dude commenting on your belly button.
oh gosh, yes.
Oh, dude. That was
Of
weird.
all the things
Out of all the
in
things,
that video,
it was a beautiful...
you noticed my belly button.
Beautiful.
Okay.
It was a beautiful dance video. You were like, you were killing this routine. You were doing so much, and this dude had the audacity to comment on your belly button.
It's like, okay, thank you.
Thanks.
But yeah, I don't even bother engaging
Yeah.
when people say things like that. It's like, I don't have the
Good-
time. I
good
really don't
laughs.
have the time. I can't. Yes. What I will do is I'll take a screenshot and then laugh about it with you guys.
Yeah.
You have a good laugh out of it. But yeah, I mean, I think the gist of like what we're talking about right now is just the lack of respect for dancers, especially in Sri Lanka. The second you say you're a dancer, they also
Yes.
kind of think it's synonymous, to a lot of other things, which again, no disrespect. If that's something you like doing, if that's your thing, by all means, it's your body. You do what you like, but just be a bit more respectful in how you speak to people and, express yourself. And he didn't have to say any of those things to you, right? Yeah, I know, it's just so out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary, And honestly, how often do you now, because social media has shifted so much, right? You can't, like back then, especially if you're doing it professionally and you're, trying to, you maintain your social media almost as sort of a portfolio. So
Yes.
I'm not going to lie. Sometimes you do need for it to look a certain way because you
Yeah.
do end up booking a lot of jobs or gigs
Yeah.
through that. So, you do want it to, whenever you do post something, you want it to be of good quality. You're trying to kind of keep
Yeah.
up with these things too. I'm not going to lie.
But at the same time, create with what you have. Because,
Yes.
I know a lot of dancers who are really skilled and talented, but they don't
Yeah.
have the means to, create with like high quality cameras.
Not like a music video.
Like a
Every
music video.
video you post doesn't need to look like a music
video,
Also,
right?
how often do you see videos where costumes are great, production quality great, cameras,
quality
everything's
is-
good.
the dance
but
quality.
the actual content of the video, like the
crap.
dancing,
Yeah.
like I don't have the words to express myself
my God,
because
I've
it's
seen so
absolute
many.
nothing.
So many.
It's a pile of nothing just wrapped up with very pretty bows. That's all it is. You're missing the point of the video.
It's
when
a
you do all
dance
of
video.
That. Yes, you can
Yeah.
have all of that. You can have the good cameras, you can have the beautiful locations, the costumes and all of that, but also make sure that what you're filming and what you're putting out there is also good quality if you are a professional.
Yeah.
It's different when you're doing it for the fun of it. You're just having fun. You got together with a friend and you just filmed a fun dance video. That's different. But if you're trying to push yourself, as this professional and you're kind of in
Trying
the
to build a
industry,
career out of it,
yes,
yeah.
Just make sure that what you're offering is something of more value. That the value lies where it needs to lie, not in all the external things.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of videos
So many.
where it's like high production
Yeah.
and the costumes are like out of this world and
Yeah.
it's like so much going on.
Yeah,
But then the dancing is very questionable.
it's lacking. It's
it's-
just purely lacking.
And it's not like coming from a very like, oh, we are better than you kind of thing. It's like, show this to any industry
Yeah.
professional.
Yes.
And get their feedback.
Yes.
Do you really think
Yes.
what you created is of good value?
Value, yeah.
Right.
And this goes right back to what we were talking about earlier about being, big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
This is why I know it's not accessible to everyone, but if this is something you want to do as a career, then you need to stop making the excuses and just kind of pave your way to be able to travel, get that exposure, dance with other professionals, learn from all these other professional teachers out there. Because I am telling you, that's when you truly realize how much further you have to go, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you travel for training and you are in a room full of other professional dancers, or you go for an audition where there's like 100 people in there, all of them who've been dancing, say, since they were 3 years old or whatever, they have amazing technical training and they've had access to all this incredible training, which dancers like us don't.
We don't.
In Sri Lanka, you do not have
And some of
access
the
to
styles
quality
that I
training.
want to learn,
It's not here. Exactly. We face this every single day,
Yeah.
right? So, but when you put yourself in that kind of environment, you truly realize where dance is at and where you're at. And this is not to put
It's like
yourself
a
down.
harsh reality check.
It is a harsh reality
Yeah.
check, but it's also a necessary reality check. It pushes you to be honest with yourself about where you're at in terms of your level of skill, and to really understand, okay, these are the things I need to work on. And it pushes you. Half the time, a lot of the time, honestly, these are the dancers that you get to share a space with. They're amazing. They're so friendly. They will help you out.
Yeah.
And they'll make you feel welcoming. In that environment. And when you're working alongside people like that or dancing next to people like that, it really motivates you and gives you that boost of inspiration, like, oh, she's incredible, he's incredible, like, I want to get to that level. Not in a competitive way, but if I work hard enough, that's where I can get to, right? So that's why I feel like it's so important for dancers to put themselves in rooms where you are not the best.
I think that's such a powerful statement, and I feel like it applies to everyone.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Whatever you're doing, it could be, you're a dancer, you're a musician, you're an athlete, whatever you do, you should not be the smartest in the room.
No, you
Then
shouldn't.
you're in the wrong room.
You're in the wrong room. You are training in the wrong room.
You should not be the best in the room.
No.
And
because
that's
that room does not challenge you. It's not pushing you to grow, and you should want growth for yourself.
Yeah.
You should want that for you, especially if you are a teacher, right? Because you have people coming to you who rely on you to help them along their way. Say they want to become professional dancers, right? Are you actually preparing them for how competitive the industry is, how difficult it is?
Outside of this country.
Outside of this country, are you giving them the tools necessary to go out there and make it, right?
Yeah.
So if you can walk into one of those classes or one of those auditions and still come off like, oh, I did good today, I was keeping up, or I actually got selected from that audition, or I made it to groups in the class, that kind of gives you a sense of where you're at, and to know, okay, I am giving something of value to my students, because I know where my level is at. But at the same time, you're also getting those reality checks of, but these are the things I need to learn, I need to improve on. And I'm going to be honest about that with my students. These are things that I'm not so great at, but here's a teacher you can go to learn these things.
Yeah.
Because that's your job as a teacher, to make sure you are preparing your students who want to become professional dancers to be able to reach that highest potential.
Yeah, and I'd like to connect back to the other point that you made, is that do not be the big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
It works out if you've made a name for yourself and you've established this reputation for yourself. That's amazing, right? Because it takes a lot of work to become the big fish in a
for
pond.
sure.
But I feel like the moment you realize that you're the bigger fish here, you need to swim your way to a bigger pond. Because that's when like going back to our first point, you've reached that level, that comfortability.
Yes.
Like, okay, I've done it all here.
Yeah.
So I need to,
Because for me, that was actually this one time, I think I've told you this before, but there was a Red Bull event here.
Yeah.
And they brought down these amazing break dancers, right? And there was this Q&A session with them where we had just watched a documentary about each dancer's life story, and it was so incredibly inspiring. And then after the documentary, we had the opportunity to ask them questions and speak to them one-on-one. And these are like, at the time, they were, some of them still are, because they still compete, they're like the top of the Red Bull BC one, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a massive title for any break dancer,
Yeah.
right? So these were all dancers who have either won the title or made it to top 2, top 3, so top of their game, right?
Right.
And I remember one person asking one of the B-boys this question. It's like, oh, you guys are already at the top of your industry. Where do you go from here? And he says, to the next level. There's no such thing as the top of the industry. There's always room for improvement. There's always room for growth. Whether there's someone else competing with you or not, you should want that for yourself. You should know that I can do better. My highest potential has not yet been accomplished. I will work for that. And that stayed with me, that understanding of, I don't need to be competing with anybody else. I'm doing this for me. And if I feel like I can do better than this, why the hell wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like that hunger really keeps you going, and just really growing in your art. And it's a beautiful thing.
Do you feel like that also there's a chance for it to also be diverted towards something else? Because I feel like, I don't know about you, but in my personal experiences, sorry, I've started off really wanting something different for myself. Like when I was younger, obviously I wanted to be a professional dancer, and I wanted to be, I wanted to be the best artist out there, best this and that, and yeah, part of me still very much wants to do all of that.
Yeah.
But I've also noticed that what I wanted when I was younger, all the dreams that I had for myself, or that hunger for that one particular goal, it has evolved like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And I don't see myself being a professional dancer or like, whatever in the future. Because I feel myself being more of like a storyteller or being more of like an artist. And I feel like an artist is not just a dancer. An artist is a lot more than that. Have you faced that where you're like, yeah, this is what I wanted when I was like 22 years old. I so badly, it stuck with my soul. Like, this is what I wanted to do when, in 5 years' time or in 2 years' time. But then you get to that point and you're like, is this really what I want? Like, I know you said you wanted to do journalism in the beginning.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you're older and you've garnered all of
Just call me
I know, I was joking. I mean, you're not 21 anymore.
It's like about 10 years. Not.
But, now that you've kind of grown so much as a dancer in this industry, do you feel like, okay, this is not what I want to do anymore? I see myself here.
For me, honestly, I love what I'm doing, right? The avenue that I've mainly chosen in dance is teaching.
Yeah.
And I love it. From the first day I started teaching to now, for me, it feels like I found my purpose. I enjoy it so much.
This is your calling.
It's my calling. I enjoy it so much. It's just that pure energy you get to share with people. And so often, like you'll have, dancers coming to you where they've never danced before, or they've had really discouraging experiences with dancing before. They have all these, self-confidence issues and things like that. And they join class, and in a month, 2, 3, you start to see them come out of their shell and they just become a different person. So for me, being a dance teacher is not just about, okay, I come to class, I give you guys a couple of steps, we have a good time, we dance, and we go home. It's not that.
Yeah.
Right? It's seeing that growth in people. And I feel like I've been able to, this is not me tooting my own horn, I'm just saying what I've seen in people, and that's obviously because they put in the work in class as well. But when they start to grow in class, you just start seeing them blossom, and they just become so much more confident. And I've had so many instances of where these dancers, these students will come and tell me, oh, I'm a lot more confident in my workplace because, we dance in groups in class, and now I'm not scared to go in front of a boardroom.
Trickles down to all areas of their life. It happened to me because of your class.
To me, I feel like there's just so much value there.
Yeah.
It's not in just the movement that I teach, but to see people be able to develop that sense of self-confidence and carry that with them outside of the studio. It feels like what I'm doing right now has meaning. It has purpose.
And it's what you're meant to do.
Yes.
Like
It feels good to be able to help people in some way. This is not me saying I'm changing their lives, I'm doing so much. It's not that. It's these people. They choose to come for class, and they choose to work hard, and they choose for themselves to do this for themselves. I'm just glad that I get to be a part of it and encourage it in some way, right? So for right now, I feel like I'm exactly where I need to be.
Amazing.
I'm so happy with what I'm doing. I'm so content with what I'm doing. In terms of my dance career, there are, a million things that I will always want to do, always another show, want to start my own school, You know how it is, you just always want to do more, you want to accomplish as much as possible. But at the same time, like I said, I don't know if my, priorities or my perspectives will shift in another 5 years. I am open to the idea that it could, and that's okay. I give myself that leniency to know that if you change your mind, it's okay. It's not the end of the world.
It's not.
Yeah.
I love that.
But for now, I'm very, very happy with what I'm doing and where I'm at. If things change, they change.
You change. And I love that you're open to it. And you're like, no, it's not a complete no. You're open to that.
Of course, yeah.
I'm going to switch gears here a bit as we are closing out the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, what's the one quote that has stuck by you that you feel like has had such a impact on you, like such a big impact on you? I'd like for you to leave us with that.
Create what you wish existed.
Beautiful. I love that.
I remember the first time I saw it. It was a dancer that I really looked up to posted it. And just in that moment, it made so much sense because I always talk about how for us dancers, there are just so few opportunities in Sri Lanka in terms of training or work or whatever. So ever since I saw that, it hit me that why am I waiting around for anybody else to create these opportunities for me? I will create them for myself. And in the long run, if I can create these opportunities for other dancers who want to pursue dance, fantastic. You don't have to wait for anybody else to pave the way for you. You pave it your damn self.
Yeah, create what you wish existed.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much, Sandy. I
Thank you.
really
Been
appreciate
wonderful.
you coming today. And I know most of our conversations go up till like 6 hours.
Yeah, I know.
And the chef is closing up the
I have
kitchen.
so much to say.
We're not done yet. We're going to continue this
Back to
outside.
part two.
I'll be coming over because I feel like our conversations, like I said, we could go on.
Yeah.
And I know
I know even with the questions you asked me, it's like we start at one point and then we go somewhere else. As always.
Because
I probably answered none of your questions, to be honest. It started somewhere, went somewhere else.
We made it, but like, yeah, I know, because I remember one conversation where we started at like 6 p.m. and it was 11:30 p.m. in the night.
I remember Manjula walking out of the room and saying,
what did
"You're
you
still
do?
here?"
The chef was like, what is happening?
Oh, this is at the restaurant,
yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you
And
for
I
having
wish
me. This
you
was
the best with
wonderful.
everything.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. This was really nice.
Thank you.